Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Willis Kleinjan, CEO of Northland Capital. Thanks for joining me, Willis.
Hey, thanks, Jesse. Thanks for the invite.
No, I think when I started this series last year, I couldn't wait to have you on board. It's just syncing up schedules and everything else just kind of puts a hamper on that. But thank you.
I'm glad it worked out.
For those people who might not be familiar with yourself, do you mind just kind of explaining your career today in equipment finance?
Well, it'll take me back a few years. Let's see, I've been in the equipment leasing business for 35 years. Had to pause a second and do the math, but I started my career in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in the equipment leasing business. I had interviewed for a job in Minneapolis for a bank that was starting a leasing company. And they said, as long as you're in Sioux Falls, why don't you open an office there? And so that was with, at that point, Speedy Lease that turned into Stearns Financial. And so I worked there for a couple of years, and then they transferred me up to Minnesota, where now I've resided ever since. And worked for them for 10 years, and then now 25 years ago started Northland Capital.
Well, perfect. And so Sioux Falls, was the family upset that they were moving to Sioux Falls? Or was that a welcome move, or?
Well, if you want to talk about that fun fact, I was born and raised in South Dakota.
Okay.
Near Brookings, South Dakota, where South Dakota State is, and born and resided there, and then of course now I've been a native of Minnesota for 35 years.
You know what? A little fun fact about me, there's I think 3 states that I haven't been to yet. Actually now 2, just the Dakotas. Those are the only 2.
Oh, is that right? Well,
the only 2. I was originally 5, and then last summer I scratched Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana off the list. So it's time for a trip up there.
All right, we'll take you on a tour.
So Willis, if you don't mind, 25 years at Northland Capital, congratulations. We just introduce Northland Capital for those people who might not be familiar with your organization.
Sure. Northland Capital is an independent finance company that does business nationwide. We're kind of a small ticket hard asset lessor. We do business primarily in kind of 4 verticals: food, fuel, waste, and recycling. We're heavy emphasis in agriculture. That's been our main focus. When I started Northland Capital, initially we were brokering business to various lenders and looking for our own funding, and ended up meeting up with a farm cooperative in southern Minnesota. At that point, it was Harvest Land Cooperative. Now it's changed to Farm Word Cooperative in a merger. But I met up with them, and they were looking to start a leasing company and didn't really know how to go about it. So we ended up partnering up 25 years ago. And since they're an agriculture cooperative that's been in business for, I guess, 115 years now, we partnered up, and certainly they were comfortable with ag, and me growing up in South Dakota on a farm. Was comfortable with the ag industry and knew that best, and so our roots were really in short line agriculture, and that was kind of our niche, and kind of has been our niche now for 25 years, is financing farmers and producers in the agriculture sector. And so since we're affiliated with the co-op, we have access to farm credit system banks, and so we get our funding through them, and it continued to grow. And our 4 verticals are really food, fuel, waste, and recycling. And so agriculture is really a very diverse industry. When you go across the country, if you start out in the West Coast, we do fruits and vegetables, nuts, work in the vineyard industry, berries, in wine. As you come across to the Plain States, certainly do a lot of cattle, beef, dairy, get into kind of the grain producers, those in corn and soybeans, cotton. And as we move further across to the east, we do a lot of transportation in agriculture, whether it's dry bulk or liquid, or even, for hauling equipment. So there's a real diversity within agriculture.
Thank you for that introduction to Northland Capital. I've had the pleasure of, I guess, knowing you probably my entire 17 years in equipment finance and meeting several members of your executive team, from Jerry to Gabe, now Brian Eschman, great pickup, by the way. Beth McLean, she is fantastic. Just want to have you talk about the culture that you built at Northland Capital. And kind of your employee tenure, if you don't mind.
Sure. We've kind of got a faith-based culture. If we go back to what our mission statement is, it's we seek to honor God by being faithful stewards of the gifts He has entrusted us with to enrich the lives of our customers, partners, and employees. And so we kind of take that to heart all through our business. Certainly, as a small independent company, certainly we treat our employees like family because we really feel they are. And I think that certainly shows up in the quality of people we have and the tenure that we have from our employees. If I just kind of go off the top of my head, and I know I'll miss somebody, but Gabe's been there 25 years, Jerry's been there 25 years, so is Barb, so is Mary. Paul's been there 24. Sadie's probably 23. Beth, she's probably 18 years, if I remember right. Our Chief Credit Officer, Eric's been there 13. Chief Risk, 11. So, if we take a look at that kind of core leadership group, we have a lot of experience that has really kind of sustained us as we've kind of all grown together in this industry. And certainly is the reason of the success of Northland is certainly the longevity of the employees that we have.
No, and to your point, I know Minnesota and St. Paul area, it's a leasing hotbed. So it's not like there's other organizations that they could potentially go to. So maintaining that culture and keeping those employees with that longer tenure is remarkable.
Yeah, thanks.
So what did the last couple of years do to, having that long tenure, obviously you have those relationships established, right? What did that do to that group of people? And more importantly, some of the younger people within the organization in regards to not being able to be in person?
Well, certainly, last couple of years have been a real learning experience for all of us, whether you're new to the industry or you've been the old 35-year-old veteran. Certainly because paradigms have been broken and things have changed. And, we've kind of gone from everyone being in the office to a more of a hybrid environment where we have staff in and we've got staff working at home and we've got staff that come in 2-3 days a week. And so we're still in, I think, the trial stage of seeing how this remote environment's going to work for companies, for culture. How do you maintain your culture in a remote environment? How do you train new employees in a remote environment? And so these are all things that we're learning as we're all experiencing this. And then certainly having an experienced staff in the industry, it certainly has helped us from when we did need to go remote. So it was kind of like we go back almost 2 years now to early March of 2020, when, you kind of look back where we were an all-in staff to all out. And so now you're totally a remote environment and you have to figure out the workarounds to figure out how to do that. We had done some of that prior in our disaster recovery programs that we had put in place. And so as we thought we were pretty secure there, but as you get into it, you realize you've only done about 80% of it, and there's 20% of it you got to figure out yet. And so it was good that we had a lot of it figured out, but there was a lot that we needed to work through to become a fully remote environment and continue to serve our vendors and customers. And we came through that, very well. So impressed by the staff that we have. Beth and Eric, certainly from credit and ops, figuring out how they're going to work from that remote environment, did an amazing job at pulling it all together and keeping the app flow going through and getting deals in and getting deals funded. And, it's a new environment, but, it's one of those things when you're going through these trials, they're not a lot of fun, but when you get out the other side, you see how much better you are as a company on the other end, and how much now that you've improved and are a lot more efficient, and operationally you're a lot better off than you were going into it. And so that's, some of the benefits of the trials you go through is the changes that you need to make or forced to make that make you better.
Well, I think of like this interview here. I don't know what your thoughts were on Zoom 2 years ago, before all this happened, but now at least we can have these conversations pretty much anywhere through the use of technology.
Well, right, and gives you the opportunity to do these fireside chats every week, where 2 years ago we wouldn't even have thought of that. And if you were going to travel the country to do this, it wouldn't have happened. So
Nope.
no, it's another benefit to the remote environment that we now have.
No, I agree. So as far as you guys are heavily into the ag market, right? What did the pandemic do to the ag market? Because to me, I remember the last connections I was at, there was like there's some different farm bills they were looking to pass and everything. So I believe we were on like a decline. Did we get back up, or where are we at, Willis?
Well, the agriculture's been strong, had been strong for a number of years. It's probably one of the longer economic cycles for agriculture, certainly in the recent history. But yes, we were kind of seeing kind of a pullback, kind of a slowdown, and certainly as we went into this full remote total economic shutdown, you're concerned about every industry you're in and how it's going to be impacted, and what's going to be impacted most, and where do you need to spend your time and effort. And certainly, as we talked about being in food, fuel, waste, and recycling, not knowing that a lot of those industries were essential businesses that were kept open and were allowed to keep operating and move forward. And through that, those industries really had some strong years in kind of a tough economic time. So it was really good, certainly sustainable for us, for the industries we were in, to be deemed essential.
Perfect. Yeah, I remember just talking with some people, especially on the transportation side, where it's like, this is going to be bad. And now it's like, I still think dealerships are completely sold out for like a year in advance. Is any of that inventory or supply chain disruption impacted you guys?
There has been some impact this year from that, and it's certainly changed, some of it, how we've operated, because a lot of these manufacturers now, instead of getting paid on delivery, are wanting to get paid up front on orders. So it's changed some of that, that process. But I guess what we've seen so far, we were kind of worried all year that it was really going to, hit us. And we really slid through this year pretty well. And from a funding standpoint, the volume was very strong and kept going all along. We were hearing some of the rumblings of what this could do as a slowdown to the economy, because people couldn't get equipment. I think it's going to be more impactful to us next year, as we're already seeing manufacturers that are now are totally sold out for 2022. And if you want to put in new orders, you're looking at production year 2023. So we really got through the 21-year fine. The 22-year, it'll be interesting just to see how much of that equipment can actually get delivered. We know there's, you hear there's stories about equipment sitting in lots, just, waiting on chips. I mean, it's all built, but they need chips in order to ship it out. So I think some of that supply chain is probably going to normalize over 2022, but I think, certainly we're going to probably feel some of the impact of that this year more than 21.
Yeah, I just think on the sales side, where you have some of these farmers with this, there's only so much useful life with some of their equipment that they have, right? And if they've been waiting and waiting, it's like, okay, if this is going to take me 24 months to get this piece, got to get in line.
Right, and what it's done, it's really driven up the prices on used equipment, and certainly we see that in cars and trucks, but it's in trailers, it's in tractors, it's in combines that certainly what we're seeing in the used equipment market, certainly prices are up considerably, and up considerably higher in some of those equipment pieces that it's harder for them to produce them because of the lack of chips. So some of the tractors and combines essentially have really increased in the used market. It's good if you're selling. It's not so good if you're buying or need to replace something, because it's tough to find that replacement equipment. And so people, instead of trading, are keeping it and keeping it longer. And, certainly, and that's going to create more of a demand, going forward. We talk about, getting that supply chain back up to normalize. Well, if we're talking 2019 levels, at here, well, 2021, 22 are up here. Yeah. So even getting back to normal isn't going to get us there. And certainly with kind of inflation driving the economy and prices going higher, and it's going to just continue to fuel it. So the next few years could be an interesting ride.
Curious to see how things play out from that perspective. That's for sure. I want to say that you and I probably met in 2006 at an ELFA conference. I'm assuming probably the annual, perhaps on the golf course. One of the things I like to talk about on this series is, the trade associations, Willis, and what they mean to yourself and your career in equipment finance, and to Northland overall.
Well, now, Northland's existence is 25 years. We've been probably a member of the LFA. I don't know if we were that first year or two, as we're still trying to get our feet wet and figure out who we were. But pretty early on, we became involved in the LFA, and where I was attending the annual conventions. And it's one of those that, looking back, I wish I'd have been probably more involved in the LFA than I was, because I didn't get as involved as I did later in my career, and realized the benefits of being, very involved in the trade association, and the contacts you made are very beneficial to, yourself and your business and your career. But as I look back, I remember one of my first conventions, if not the first convention, I remember, right, we were in Boca, and I was there by myself, didn't know a soul, and ended up talking with Bill Verhelli. And of course, what a fine gentleman he is, and certainly an industry leader and veteran. But, he too told me it's like, one of the best things you can do is, go to the executive roundtable, because that's where you kind of meet, the industry leaders or professional CEOs, and really are able to rub shoulders with them. And that has been a tremendous conference, and that I've been to basically ever since. And so, but it's one of those, really getting to know and meet people is really where, the value of being a part of the association plays its most benefit. And
are you still on the board, or did you just come off the board?
I just came off at the annual convention in October. Did my 3-year tour through the board. Totally enjoyed that. It was a very good experience, really nice, because you're spending some more time with these industry leaders and really getting to know them and their businesses. And Truly was a lot of fun. Certainly COVID basically stole a year from us because, we didn't have any conventions. We didn't have a lot of the opportunity to get together for the executive roundtables and that sort of thing. So, but certainly am very fond of the time I had there, and thank the LFA for asking me to be a part of the board.
Perfect. And I think Beth, this is her second or third year on the NEFA board. So I know you guys are active members in National Equipment Finance Association as well.
Right. And, we started that a number of years ago. Gabe and Paul and Beth, Gabe's been on the board and was on the board for a number of years. And now Beth has kind of taken that tenure and doing what we can within the various associations to basically try to contribute back, because, whatever you give, you get twice as much back. And certainly the knowledge and the experience we've gained from that has certainly benefited us as a company.
No, I agree. And that's something that's kind of a recurring theme here. You put in what you put in, you get out of these trade associations. And I didn't know that Boca was your first conference. That was my first conference too, but I'm assuming it was a few years later when it was in Boca, because that was at Hurricane Wilma.
Oh, yeah, I didn't, actually, I was on the way to the airport when I called a friend of mine in Florida saying we were heading to that association. And he's, if I were you, I'd turn around. And so I don't have any of the stories to share for those that went. But
beautiful day on the golf course. It was a beautiful day on the golf course, and it was a great experience. I probably never want to do again.
Yeah.
All right, Willis. One of the questions that I ask people when they come on here, anyone in the industry that you'd recommend that I reach out to participate in this series?
Well, good question. I certainly listened to the one you'd done last week with Rick Remacher, and it was like, I'd encourage everybody to go look at that one because it was really good. I've known Rick for a number of years now, and boy, it's just so interesting to listen to these industry veterans with the experience that they've had, and certainly the different companies and banks and associations they were affiliated with, and the knowledge that they have is really the benefit of these fireside chats. So I really enjoyed his, and some of that I don't know exactly what the whole list is, and you've kind of done a lot of the industry veterans. I don't know how much you've done from the service provider side, because they too have been a part of this for 25 years. And you as a service provider, certainly full well know the value that you guys bring to the association.
Yeah, I want to say this started November of 2020. So what are we, 14 months into it? And there's quite the long list. I try to, as much as I like to talk to industry veterans, because I've known you for quite a while, but there's things I've learned today on here, and I've learned from, when I talk to everyone, where it's like, I did not know that. But it's also when you try to find some up and coming people too, where it's like, let's hear your story. Why are you here?
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think that's it. People are always interested in, someone else's story, and certainly, how they got into the leasing association, because no one grew up saying I'm going to be in equipment leasing.
No.
And we all got here by some road, and normally it was probably more of a rabbit trail than a road of where you went from here to there to end up in this industry. But once you're here and you find out how unique a niche it is, it's been a great industry to have spent my career.
No, and thank you again for your time today, Willis. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Look forward to seeing you probably at the executive roundtable.
Yeah, that's coming up here in a couple of months, so looking forward to it.
Yep. Well, thank you again for your time today. Stay warm when you're back up in Minnesota, and I will be talking to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Willis.